number one recruit in America is a kid named AJ Dybantsa. He is originally from Massachusetts, but he played prep school, Prolific Prep, which is California, and then now he's at a Utah prep school. I think it's called Utah Prep. Who knows? Some of
Believe it is.
These schools pop up. They pop up. And he just committed to BYU, Brigham Young. He is going to become a player at BYU, which is, needless to say, not where the number one player in America generally tends to go. Massive NIL package. A really good story by Matt Norlander on CBSSports.com about this. And he talked to his business advisor about this, said BYU, North Carolina, and Alabama all offered approximately $5 million for him to go play, which would presumably be one season. Some reports have it as high as $7 million. There's another $1 million, he thinks, in Nike and some other, what would they call that? Real NIL? What do they call it?
Real NIL. Yeah.
Or something like that. Allowable NIL. Anyway, there's another $1 million there. So this kid's going to make a ton of money to play basketball and then presumably go off to be a lottery pick. And needless to say, people are kind of flipping out, which I kind of find funny that, did BYU's just buying players now and all this. Basketball recruiting cracks me up that anyone could be outraged over anything when for 40 freaking years, the players were chosen, not all of them, but a high percentage of players were told where to go by Nike and Adidas.
Yeah.
That apparently is now preferable. This is crazy, but that was okay. You know when they call them blue bloods? That just means they had a good sneaker deal.
That's right.
That's what a blue blood was. Preferred program of Nike and or Adidas. Or Adidas. They didn't both like the same one. So all of a sudden now people are outraged. I mean, they've always been outraged by college basketball recruiting, I guess. But Pat, $5 to $7 million for one player, though. Little wild. That's a lot.
That is a lot of money for a guy that's going to be there 1 year. I mean, that, in college football, you could also have a guy there for 1 year, but he's got to play 3 years of college. And so you have a better chance of having somebody you've invested in for 3 years, where in basketball, they only have to play one. And then they're, if they're this kid, if they're AJ Dybantsa, they're out of there. So it's an incredible expenditure. But it's fascinating to me that he chose BYU and that BYU can get in the mix for somebody like this, which is another sign, I think, of the new era that people, if you got some money, you got some boosters, you can put up a package comparable to a blue blood school. And it's fascinating, because again, the NIL Cassandras, when all this was coming about, was, they're all just going to go to Kansas and North Carolina. That's all they're going to do. And then football, they're all going to go to Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State. And it's not the case. And so it's refreshing. It's intriguing. The coach at BYU, Kevin Young's an NBA guy. And is already running a very NBA kind of style there. And they've got a kid, a 6'9" point guard from Russia, who's probably going to be a lottery pick himself. And so they've got something to sell there in terms of a model, I think. And you got a model to sell, you got some money. Look what you can do. You can get the number one player to go to BYU. It's fascinating.
Ryan Smith, who owns the Jazz.
Yeah.
And the the NHL team there that doesn't have a name, and Real Salt Lake. They just call it Utah Hockey Club. He's believed to be the main and a BYU alum. So it's a different type of buy. Go ahead, Ross.
Yeah, it's a good point by Pat. That's the point I would make, is that it's a good indication of the changing kind of landscape of college athletics, where if you have a good donor base, you're going to be able to put together a good roster and win on the field. We talked about it with SMU. We've talked about it off and on. I mean, in football, SMU, and I was on the phone a couple of weeks ago with their coach, Rhett Lashley, who brought it up. No longer can you look at the logos and the colors and the history of a team to necessarily determine if they're going to be able to recruit well and win. It's changing. That's changing. And powers that are programs that weren't necessarily powers are potentially going to get there because of the permitting of sharing revenue with athletes. And I think BYU and SMU are two places for basketball, football that in basketball and football too. Both you're gonna see them kind of rise from the ashes, Dan.
I agree. I'm not gonna. I mean, look, it's wild. You're gonna pay. Let's say the kid makes $7 million. He's not on campus for 7 months. I mean, this is a lot of money, and God bless. I'm ecstatic for him. Go for it. This is jarring to see. It is a disruptor. It is different, but I feel like the nostalgia people pretend like anybody was following the rules before. Why did all of these players pick these certain schools? A tradition. It's tradition. It's tradition. We literally had two trials in the Southern District of New York that put so much of it on the record that it already not really been much of a secret. These elaborate webs that shoe companies did to boost their investments. And I think people just didn't, I don't know. Like there are even those people at like Louisville, like didn't realize that when you accept $100 million from Adidas, you work for them. They don't work for you. And they're not going to just sit there and go, hope the team's good. Hope the team's good. Hey, here's $100 million. Hope we sell. Hope you make the tournament. No, they're going to go, hey, here's a power forward. Here's a guard. Here's this. And that's why everybody went to the same schools. So it's different. But if you're a fan of other teams, yeah, you might sit there and go, well, we don't have a billionaire owner. We don't have a guy who's going to do this. But you never had a chance before. And so maybe you do. And so BYU's sitting there going, wait, what's wrong with us? Nothing. So this kid now, BYU is other. It's a religious institution. They get the honor code. This guy's a straight-laced. He wants that. He just wants to go play ball, practice. He's not looking for parties and stuff. Great. Perfect. Go play for BYU. They got a great fan base, big stadium, right? Utah's an awesome place to live. It's an excellent school. All that. Go get them. I think it's cool. And hey, you don't have to sit there and make, deals. We had bag drops, and you got to, all the under the table stuff, and you got to risk your dad getting pinched by the FBI. And
right. Yeah.
I mean, this is just, it's cleaner. You're like, okay.
Yeah. We don't need TJ Gasnola anymore. We don't need Bill self-texting TJ Gasnola. Got to get some real guys.
Right. And those guys getting arrested for doing, right? Get sent to prisons and stuff like TJ didn't. But here's my point though with this other thing. This is my other, and I'm very interested in this watching this in the high school. We talked about the Texas Tech wide receiver from top 10 player last year who was a big deal for Texas Tech. He gets beat out does not play much. The Missouri defensive end, number one, some people had him the number one recruit in the country, Williams Nirwani. He's a big deal for Missouri. He only plays in 2 games, basically gets beat out by older players, doesn't hit the field. A lot of money was spent on those guys. And I wonder, everyone thinks the market will just continue to flood up in money. And I think it will for a while, but there's a limit. There is a finite amount of money. And how many times is Boosters going to say, why are we taking this recruit? We should just be doing what Dion and a lot of other guys are doing. It's not just Dion, and get older players. The freshmen aren't worth it. Their hit rate isn't great. You don't know about their work ethic. Are they big? Are they going to play? And I would think if you came to me and said, hey, if you're really wealthy, even if you take Ryan Smith here, maybe he's funding this whole thing. I don't know who's doing it, but let's say it's one guy. So we won't say it's him, but let's say one guy's paying $5 million and the player doesn't pan out. How do you go back to him? So, okay, well now give me $5 million more. I got this guy. So I wonder, at least in football recruiting, is the market going to go heavier and heavier on the portal and less on the high school kids? Maybe not the top 10 or top 20, but are you really paying for player number 113 when you might be better off just trying to get that transfer from the Sun Belt who's played 3 years?
Sure. I mean, I think that, yeah, there's going to be a market evolution there, both in terms of the amount paid and who it's paid to. Because I do think you have a very good chance of your boosters who you're going to ask year after year after year to fund things say, hey, wait a minute, why? I'm not giving you money. Look at I gave you X million for this guy and he didn't pan out. And so, I'll be interested to see. I mean, like, Ohio State is committed, but they put 20 million into that roster and lost to a 3-touchdown underdog Michigan team at home. Are there people there that are like, I'm not sure I'm in again this next year, or that say I'm in, but we got to get rid of that Ryan Day dude? I mean, you're with the amount of investment from them comes an increased amount of feedback probably from them.